Anton Yelchin and Leonard Nimoy, thank you for bringing so much joy to the world, you two. I hope you both rest in peace and live long and prosper, you two. Rest well up in heaven, and you will never be forgotten. Hey everybody, this is 22 Tiger Dude here, and I'm here to review Star Trek Beyond. So Star Trek Beyond is the third installment in this generation of Star Trek films. We have so many Star Trek films, but I guess you could say in the rebooted now trilogy. This film is now directed by Justin Lin. This film is going to be written by Simon Pegg and his writer Doug Jung. Hopefully I got that right. And of course the film has a cast of Chris Pine, Zoe Saldana, Zachary Quinto, Anton Yelchin, R.I.P. to him, Simon Pegg, Karl Urban, and Idris Elba. Everyone pretty much returned except for Alice Eve from Star Trek Into Darkness. And Star Trek Beyond is about the U.S. Enterprise being destroyed after Krall comes over to destroy the Enterprise. And now with the Enterprise being destroyed, it's up to the crew to come up with a plan to stop Krall. So I was very excited for Star Trek Beyond. Not really when that teaser back in December came out, but once they released that trailer where it actually felt like a Star Trek trailer, not a Beastie Boys song, even though I love Beastie Boys. You know, it did feel like Star Trek. But luckily, when they actually released a new trailer after months of not even promoting this film, which is ironic, you know, I was actually very excited for this film. And I thought J.J. Abrams did a really great job with the first two installments. But obviously, he couldn't direct Beyond because of his commitment to direct Star Wars The Force Awakens. So we now have Justin Lin. And this is coming from the guy that came from directing most of the Fast and Furious movies. So I was really curious to see how Justin Lin would handle this. And now that I've seen Star Trek Beyond, I can just say I had a blast with this film. This film is just the definition of having a fun time at the theaters, and definitely one of the reasons why Star Trek Beyond is a very worthy installment in this franchise is because of the cast. The cast has so much chemistry with each other. You feel like at this point that the crew is a family. They see each other as more than just friends. They actually see each other as a family. You can feel their connection. The way they interact with each other is just interesting. And you know, one of the things I always notice about these films that I really love is that these films actually put more focus on the characters than they do with the action. And Star Trek Beyond continues to deliver that. And I can really appreciate that. Even though I love spectacles. You guys should know me if you follow my channel. I love when you get a huge spectacle. I love me some action sequences. But I do really appreciate Star Trek Beyond mainly for its characters. I actually think the character moments are better than the action scenes, if I have to be honest. My favorite being between Bones and Spock, played by Karl Urban and Zachary Quinto. I thought the scenes, any scene that was between Bones and Spock, were the best character-driven moments in Star Trek Beyond, in my opinion. Those were the best moments where two characters were just interacting with each other, and I love that so much. Everyone does such a great job, and there's so many of them that I can't even name off. I will just say this: Chris Pine, he continues to deliver as Captain Kirk. He is really great in this role. He embodies this role. And it's so great to see how much Captain Kirk has grown since the 2009 film, because when we got introduced to this character, he was just some, honestly, asshole. He was an asshole, basically. But he's changed ever since, and it's so cool to see how much he's progressed since the 2009 film. Zoe Saldana is still really good in this film. Zachary Quinto is still really great as Spock. And normally these movies focus mainly on him and Captain Kirk interacting, but this film focused on what I said earlier, him and Bones interacting. Most of the film is just him and Bones, and I actually thought that was really cool this time around. Even though we did get less of the Captain Kirk and Spock interactions in this film, you know, whenever they did interact, it was still very meaningful. Anton Yelchin Lin, of course, may he rest in peace. He really was such a true talent, and to see that this man is no longer here on Earth really does sadden me because, man, you know, his last time as Chekhov, he is just so good in this film, and I thought he still brought the personality of this character like he did with the first two movies. I still thought Anton Yelchin did a really great job as this character, and, you know, just thank you, Anton Yelchin, for your work. He was really great in this film. Karl Urban, he continues to kill it as Bones. Bones continues to be just the funniest character, definitely, and he's definitely the one that adds the most comic relief. I thought Bones was just such a great character. It was just awesome. Simon Pegg, he's great in this film. Simon Pegg, he's just one of those actors that you just continue to like because, you know, even though he's a very funny actor, he's shown over the years that he could be more than just a comedy actor. And honestly, that shows in Star Trek Beyond. There are moments where his character is funny, but definitely when his character needs to be serious, his character is serious. And how Simon Pegg and Doug wrote this film was very interesting to me. You could tell through the writing of Star Trek Beyond that they were very passionate about this film. And I thought Justin Lin, to his credit, really did a good job directing this film. You could see in the passion of Simon Pegg and Doug, who wrote the script, and Justin Lin, who directed the film, there was a lot of passion put into Star Trek Beyond, and I love seeing that. The cinematography is so beautiful. This time around, yes, this is the film that doesn't have that many space moments, but when you're up there in space, wow, that was freaking awesome. Any action scene that was up in space, I love that. That was just so great right there. And then there's also when they're in this planet, like just when you see the overall scope of this planet that the crew members are trapped in, that was really cool. Sofia Boutella, who you might remember as that girl from Kingsman: The Secret Service last year, who really kicked ass in that film, she is in this film as J-Law, and I thought that was very cool. She actually did a really great job portraying this character, and just how her and Simon Pegg would interact with each other was very interesting. I liked the way her and Simon Pegg interacted with each other and how they formed this pretty nice friendship along the way, because they start out not really trusting each other, like they're trying to get to know each other, but then they've really connected with each other the more the film goes on, and I thought that played out very well. And I just thought J-Lo was a really great character, not to mention the makeup on her is so damn great. That's definitely something I have to say about Star Trek Beyond. The makeup looks beautiful. Like, wow, so much makeup goes into all of these characters, and it just feels so nice. Even though I'm not someone that's really grown up watching the original Star Trek shows or the original Star Trek movies, you know, I could feel this movie paying beautiful homage to Star Trek. I could see those that have grown up with Star Trek really appreciate this film big time, because you do have that old school feeling, which is really nice. But personally, I still got that old school feeling with the other installments though. But I think this is the one that try to connect more with the old school Star Trek fans the most, which is honestly very nice. You get some to latch on the fans in, the ones that have grown up on, but you also have the modern fans, you know, the ones that have started to get into this franchise with J.J. Abrams' Star Trek from 2009. And, you know, either way, whether you've grown up with the show and the movies or not, you know, you could still really get behind Star Trek Beyond. That's very cool. It's a very well-written movie, honestly. It's very entertaining. And I did think Idris Elba did a very great job playing Krall. Krall in the third act, I will get a little bit more into him right now, but Krall in the third act was actually a really good villain, and his motivation for what he's doing, you could get a clear understanding of his motivation, and once you hear his motivation, you're like, wow, like you actually see where he's coming from. Even though what he's doing is wrong, you could see where he's coming from. I will just say this, you know that Beastie Boys song that was played in the teaser trailer? I have to say, how they use that Beastie Boys song in this film, brilliant. Freaking brilliant. That was just a clever way to use that song. Now, I will say, as far as problems go with Star Trek Beyond, like I just finished mentioning, Idris Elba as Karl was really good in the third act because you actually got to hear his motivation. However, in the first two acts, he was a very weak, very one-dimensional villain that I had a very hard time of latching onto. It's not like he was a bad villain or anything. He was just like he's a whatever kind of villain. He's just a villain. Well, just be a villain, that's about it. I just thought he was very weak for the first two acts. And even though, yes, I could see where they were going, they wanted to build up his character for once we get to the third act, I just wish for the first two acts that the antagonist was way more interesting. Also, I will say, as far as the action sequences go, I don't really feel they're as great as J.J. Abrams' action sequences in the first two films. The action sequences were still pretty good. I still had fun with them, but the problem that I had with the action sequences is that they got a little bit shaky, honestly, and I didn't really feel that energy. Like, you could tell Justin Lin was very passionate about this film even during the action, but I just wasn't quite feeling the energy that the action sequences in the first two movies had, because in the first two movies I thought the action sequences were very energetic, they were very exciting, and when it comes to the space moments, Justin Lin, I felt, filmed those action sequences very, very well, especially in that finale. Holy crap, that finale, that action sequence, and then the opening sequence, of course, where the Enterprise is getting destroyed. That was great right there. For some reason, when the action is in this planet that the crew is stranded in, however, I didn't think it was the best. I still thought it was pretty good, but I wouldn't say it was the best personally, because it did get a little bit shaky, and I just didn't really feel it was as energetic as it could have been. And my last problem with Star Trek Beyond, which I would honestly say is my biggest problem with this movie, is that sometimes the pacing can feel rather sluggish. Sometimes I did find myself honestly a little bored watching this movie. Not extremely bored or anything, but there would just be times where I felt like some parts were running on for a little bit too long and they could pick up the pace. Like, one moment I'll be interested in this film, then it'll kind of drag for a bit. Then there's going to be another scene that I'm really into, and then it'll drag a little bit for me. So it's kind of like a little bit of a roller coaster ride once they're on that planet. There are moments where I'm like really into it, and then there are moments where I'm just honestly rather bored watching it. But I would say for the majority of the moments when they are on that planet, I was definitely into the film. But it just wasn't like Star Trek or Star Trek Into Darkness, where I felt like those movies fly by really fast. I felt like those movies from start to finish just ran by really quick, especially Into Darkness. I feel like Into Darkness was definitely the most fast-paced movie in the franchise, while Beyond, I have to say, as much as I really like this movie, yeah, it is definitely the slowest paced of the franchise so far. There is also a cliche dealing with Captain Kirk that I'm not gonna say, but you might know what it is. There's just a little something that is predictable, and then when you get to the ending, you're like, yeah, I knew that was gonna happen. So there is a little cliche there in the film that I didn't really think was necessary, to be honest, as well. Overall, you guys, Star Trek Beyond is a very solid movie. I had a really good time watching this film. This is a good film. This is a damn good, fun film. Not as good as Star Trek. Not as good as Star Trek Into Darkness. Into Darkness is still my favorite in this franchise. However, I still had a blast with Star Trek Beyond. Yes, it had some parts I felt were rather sluggish, but it still really entertained me, and I thought Justin Lin did a really good job directing this film. For the most part, you know, the action sequences could have been a little bit better, but besides that, I thought he did a really good job directing it, and I thought the writing by Simon and Doug were honestly really good. Star Trek Beyond is one of the most fun movies I've seen this summer, and I'm going to give it 3 out of 4 stars. So you guys, in the comments down below, let me know, what did you think about Star Trek Beyond? What is your favorite Star Trek film in the rebooted series? And also let me know if you've grown up with Star Trek. And if you have grown up with Star Trek, what did you think of the shows? What did you think of the original movies? Anything Star Trek related, let me know in the comments down below. This is 22 Tiger Dude here, and don't forget that I will always have Tiger Power!